Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here at Boston Police Headquarters with so many of the officers and command staff who serve our city every single day. I'm grateful for your professionalism and your dedication. My deep gratitude to Superintendent-in-Chief Greg Long for your leadership. Thank you. Chief Long, you are working tirelessly, carrying double duty to lead this department. I want to thank you for your continued service. And I also want to acknowledge my sister in service, District Attorney Rachael Rollins, for her leadership and her partnership. Keeping our community safe and healthy is a team effort, and I also want to acknowledge other members of my team today. Chief of Civic Engagement, Aisha Miller, Chief of Health and Human Services, Marty Martinez, Director of Public Safety, Dr. Rufus Falk, and Program Director of Trauma Response and Recovery at the Boston Public Health Commission, Mark Scott. I also want to take a moment to extend my deep sympathies and support to the 48 people who lost their homes in Dorchester to the fire yesterday. Over 150 Boston firefighters rushed to the 7-alarm fire that consumed 5 houses over 3 streets. On the scene, I saw firsthand the skill, expertise, and bravery of our first responders as they battled the blaze in 90-degree heat and ensure that every resident was safely evacuated. I want to thank Commissioner Dempsey of the Boston Fire Department and all of the firefighters on the scene yesterday. I also want to commend all of the city departments and partners who came together to support our displaced neighbors. The 48 individuals who were housed last night and working together, support teams at the Office of Neighborhood Services, the Department of Neighborhood Development, the Office of Housing Stability, and the American Red Cross are helping these families find immediate comfort and shelter and the ongoing work to rebuild their lives. Collaboration is how we respond to emergencies in Boston. It is also how we will make this summer a safe and joyful one all across our city. Part one crime is down 21% in Boston this year and 25% compared to the 5-year average. This is good news. We also know that COVID has compounded trauma. That is in part why we saw an increase in violence last summer and why we are being very intentional as we approach this summer. As we mark the arrival of summer, I want to honor all those we have lost to COVID-19 and to violence. The past year has exposed long-time inequities and exacerbated trauma in our city. The collective trauma from these losses has deepened the need for healing in our communities. The pandemic is not over, but our progress against COVID-19 continues. 60% of our residents have received 1 shot of the vaccine, and almost half are fully vaccinated. As our city recovers from the pandemic, I am here to announce how we will strive to make this summer a season of safety and healing. Working together across departments, we will apply a racial justice lens as we address violence and promote peace using a public health framework of prevention, intervention, response, and recovery. Working with city departments and community partners, I am leading a comprehensive 2021 summer safety plan that aligns our city-funded work with our community-based programming that connects our work to our goals to address and prevent violence. We will implement the summer safety prevention plan in 5 parts. First, we will scale up youth engagement activities such as BCYF Super Teens program. This is a pre-employment education initiative for 13 and 14-year-olds who have aged out of summer camps. We will grow youth services offered by SOAR Boston to connect with harder-to-reach young adults. Our youth jobs will expand to 4,000 slots, and we will provide mentoring and engage with youth who are at risk for gang recruitment. And in my budget, I am proposing to make general membership at all BCYF centers free this year. Second, we will strengthen our work to cool gang hotspots with direct intervention from the BPD Youth Violence Strike Task Force and the Drug Unit. This effort will curb incidents of violence among vulnerable youth in areas of our city most susceptible to violence. Third, we will support and connect neighborhoods to resources that help them respond and recover from violence. Our Boston Public Schools will use summer learning programs to build trusting relationships between students and adults to support the overall well-being of our young people. The Boston Police Department will bring together Youth Connect social workers with vulnerable youth and families. And BPD's Street Outreach Unit will continue to coordinate multi-agency responses to individuals suffering from homelessness, addiction, and mental health disorders. The Boston Housing Authority will work closely with youth at the Mildred Haley Youth Center, as well as a strong group of city and community partners to improve lighting in the hallways and mitigate potential incidents. BPHC's Neighborhood Trauma Team Network will continue to respond to incidents of violence. Their work will also include community outreach and engagement and promotion of their support line. Fourth, we will expand outreach and engagement for specific groups of residents, such as the Safe and Successful Youth Initiative, which will provide outreach and direct services to young adults between the ages of 17 and 24 who have been identified by law enforcement as most susceptible to firearm violence. The Office of Public Safety will also convene Operation Exit, which offers training and employment opportunities to gang-involved individuals through the building trades unions. This work is done in partnership with Building Pathways, Youth Options Unlimited, and other programs. The fifth and final part of this plan will promote positive activities and community engagement in our shared public spaces. The Office of Public Safety will activate Save Our Streets, an initiative to invigorate 16 public parks located in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan with recreational activities. Through SOAR, I will invest $12,000 in community events and will provide grants of $500 to support events hosted by community groups across the city. The Boston Housing Authority will hold Unity Days at family sites between August and October, and the Boston Police Department will also host activities and events throughout our city this summer. As we look ahead to summer events and holidays, I want to talk about fireworks. Fireworks are dangerous, illegal explosives. In addition, the loud bang from fireworks is triggering to veterans and others in our community who have experienced trauma from gunfire. We have all experienced the trauma of COVID. Let's do all we can to be good neighbors and promote peace in our communities. Let's all stay safe, and let's all enjoy the summer without fireworks. If fireworks do create a nuisance in your neighborhood, please call 311 to report it. Key to the summer safety plan is our partnership and collaboration with community residents. We are engaging community-based organizations in this work and providing over $100,000 in grants created specifically to boost summer programming and efforts. Maintaining public safety is a citywide responsibility that we all share. Working together, we will identify and address the root causes of violence, create pathways to opportunities for our youth, and strengthen relationships. This summer, we will promote peace and healing in our communities. Now, Chief Long will share more about our public safety approach, and following Chief Long, we will hear from District Attorney Rachael Rollins. Chief Long.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. Before I begin, I want to thank Mayor Janey for her continued support of the Boston Police Department. It's very much appreciated. I also want to acknowledge Suffolk County District Attorney Rachael Rollins for the work that her and her office do in terms of addressing violence in the city of Boston, as well as providing justice for victims throughout the city. Appreciate the work. I also want to acknowledge everyone else that's up here. The work they do, different city agencies, is crucial to providing safety and resources for the residents of Boston, and I appreciate all the work that you do. As I begin, I just want to mention some of the hard work being done by the men and women of the Boston Police Department in conjunction with the community partners and everyone that's up here today. As we stand here today, violent crime is down 19% in the city of Boston. Part 1 crime is down 21%. Firearm-related arrests are up 30%, and firearm recoveries are up 30%. The reason why I mention those statistics is to show the Boston Police Department's commitment to ensuring public safety for the residents of Boston. The mayor this morning convened a meeting. It's a public safety meeting. Different department heads. We had clergy and the police department there to talk about the summer and a safety plan moving forward in the summer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to briefly walk through the steps the Boston Police Department is going to take in terms of addressing violence this summer. Typically, the department, what we do, we're going to, as we continuously do, we're going to use our intelligence-driven data to address those individuals and those areas and those groups where we see violence and those that are committing violence. We're going to continue to work with the district attorney's office, which we always do, in identifying these individuals and holding them accountable. I mentioned those statistics earlier about the number of firearm-related arrests. That shows that approach is working. We're focusing in on individuals with intelligence, and we're holding them accountable. I just want to make that clear. That approach does work, and you're seeing that in the numbers, and a lot of hard work is paying off. In June 10th, we are graduating 94 recruits from the Boston Police Academy. That's going to help clearly in terms of our visibility and our efforts to ensure public safety. These officers are going to be deployed throughout the city in different districts. Also, as we've seen the last couple of weeks, as it's got warmer out, we've had an issue with off-road vehicles. We're going to continue to focus on that. Sergeant Detective Janey Humphreys in our auto theft unit does a tremendous job of focusing in on that. In the last couple of weeks alone, we've seized over 30 of those vehicles and written numerous citations. I also want to commend the public in their efforts in this. The department, we've sent out reminders and asking people in the community if they see these vehicles, they know where they're stored, to let us know. We've had a great response the last couple of weeks. We've had numerous tips that have led to numerous seizures. It's that exact partnership with the community that helps address problems such as that. Also, we've seen in the summertime, we've seen it recently, large parties and gatherings. I think our district captains do a good job of addressing large gatherings and parties. Last summer, we were very successful in doing that. Our approach is to gain compliance by tenants and owners. As I said, we do a good job of that. For those that compliance isn't an option or repeat offenders, citations and criminal complaints will be an option for the Boston Police Department. The mayor also mentioned schools. We're going to have a lot of school programs that are going to be open. Historically, we did in the past, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to have our school police is going to be a presence in and around the schools to ensure the safety of the students that are attending these programs in the schools. Obviously, it goes without saying, during the summer months, our parks and our open spaces, there's a lot of activity, people out enjoying the weather. We're going to have police presence there to ensure the safety of our residents in these spaces, in these parks. Part of our approach to safety planning also has to do with engaging the community and keeping those positive relationships going that we have with the community. Last year, we were hampered a little bit with COVID. We were limited in some of the engagement we could do. But this year, the Bureau of Community Engagement, under the direction of Superintendent Bastian, along with our community service officers, will look forward to re-engaging the community and re-implementing a lot of those programs that have enabled us to build these strong relationships with our community. A major part of this, too, that the mayor also mentioned, is identifying individuals that we think are at risk for violence and being involved in violence. It's a huge part of this. Our relationship with these different city agencies, our community partners, and as well as the district attorney's office, we're able to identify a lot of these individuals and get them programs and divert them away from violence. It's a huge part of that, and I think this collaboration that we're involved in makes that possible. I want to address briefly this weekend, Memorial Day. Obviously, it's the unofficial start of summer. So the department, we're going to have extra patrols out in every neighborhood throughout the city. Kind of the wrinkle this year is on Saturday, as everyone well knows, COVID restrictions have been lifted. That's the great unknown for us. A lot of these businesses and establishments, bars and restaurants that haven't been open or have had limited capacity, we expect them to open, and we're going to have increased capacity. Again, we don't know how many are opening. That's going to depend upon staffing issues. I would imagine a lot of these clubs and restaurants. But what we've done is we get ahead of that. Our licensed premise unit has already been in coordination with the city licensing unit. An email has been sent out to all these clubs and establishments, reminding them of the restrictions on their licenses, on making sure that they're ensuring the safety of their patrons and visitors. I know everyone's excited to get out and about again, but we have to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for everybody. What we're going to do is our licensed premise unit, along with our district detectives, are going to be out, and they're going to be visiting these licensed premises to make sure that they are complying with the license restrictions, as well as providing a safe environment for all their patrons and visitors. In closing, I want to thank the last couple of months, all the residents across the city of Boston that have taken their time to walk up and individually thank Boston police officers for the job that they've done. That type of thanks goes a long way. It is greatly appreciated by the officers in the department, and we look forward to continuing our strong relationship with the communities of the residents of the city of Boston. Thank you.
I have 40 binders, so I apologize for I'm like, where did I put all the stuff that it was going to be so wonderful to say. Thank you, Commissioner and Mayor. I want to point out that when the Commissioner says that we have an increase in the number of guns that the Boston police are taking off of the streets, that's actually a very good thing. We are not happy that there are more guns out there, but they are doing exceptional work every day to make sure that they are no longer able to harm people in Suffolk County. As the district attorney, I want you to hear the work we've been doing prior to we talk about moving forward, but what we've done since COVID happened. Many people falsely believe that the courts have been closed. They have not. The courts have remained open. And immediately after a state of emergency was declared by our governor back in March of 2020, Suffolk County was one of very few DA's offices in the United States of America that had presented to the grand jury not once, but twice, in fact. And we returned had several indictments returned, well over 1,000, as well as specific defendants that we held accountable or the grand jury returned indictments on. When we look at these numbers from September of 2020 till April of 2021, we have had 1,137 indictments returned against 268 defendants, including 115 firearms and 29 homicides that were indicted. So we don't do that alone. The office I inherited and have led with pleasure for the last 2.5 years has about 300 or so exceptional people. One of them is here, First Assistant Danny Mulhern. But with the able and capable and exceptional work of the Boston Police Department and the Mass State Police, we have held individuals accountable while all of us have been trying to get through a global pandemic. I want to also mention that we are targeting BPD does an exceptional job reacting to crime. For those not lawyers or police officers, when 911 is called, when ShotSpotter is activated, they show up, they do exceptional work. Where they are leading the charge, and we are proud to be leading with them, is proactively disrupting violence before it happens. So our Crime Strategies Bureau, the Fusion Center of the Mass State Police, the BRIC for the Boston Police Department, we are looking at trends in data. We are looking at when people are returning home from a federal, a state, or a county incarcerated period, whether there are going to be additional problems in community when they return home, and we are trying to disrupt that violence. I'm proud to say with the work of the Boston Police Department, we have just approved arrest warrants in approximately 40 to 50 individuals that are driving some of the violence in our most impacted communities in Boston, and we will continue to present these cases to the grand jury, to work closely with our partners in law enforcement, as I said, who have been doing an exceptional job, and we will be presenting these cases. We just completed 2 trials in federal court, so the Suffolk Superior Court, we can only impanel juries there, but apparently they are not. The air is not capable of sustaining a full jury trial. So we impaneled the juries in the Suffolk Superior Court, but then we tried the cases in the federal Moakley Courthouse. We just got 2 really strong verdicts for a hate crime that had happened at Empire and for a baseball coach that had been raping one of the young men since he was 9 years old on his baseball team. And you need to hear that we are expediting some of these cases in front of the grand jury with respect to guns and other individuals specifically that have created harm or are driving a lot of the violence in these areas, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Are there any questions for me or members of this team here?
Could somebody, whether it's Ian Rollins or Chief Long or whomever, expand on that 40 to 50 people just recently arrested at the core of that violence?
Warrants. We with the Boston Police Department, we have arrest warrants for 40 to 50 people that we believe have been driving the crime. So now the hard work, we've got the easy part. The Boston Police now are going to be going out and finding all of those individuals. They know very well who they are. So we expect to have several arraignments coming up in the near future. But it's as a result, that's Sean, right? Am I looking? I can't notice you. As a result of the hard police work, we've determined who these individuals are. So that's the work done, and we're hopefully going to be arresting them shortly.
Another question for the DA. DA, what do you make of the seemingly contradictory statements between William Cross and Marty Walsh on the Dennis White appointment? Do you want to hear more on that from either of them?
I don't make much of that. I think what we've seen with Commissioner Long, Danny, is that the Boston Police have been incredibly professional during a time of uncertainty. They show up and do a job that many of us in this room wouldn't, even if we got 3 times as much money as them. And rather than commenting on that, I want to just commend them for the work that they did and do.
Mayor, can you talk a little bit more about this weekend? The chief said you were going to have extra patrols on. What kind of things are you concerned that might happen that you need to be on the lookout for? And specifically, with mask mandates now lifted for much, except for private businesses, how much of a role would the police department be in requiring masks in businesses if a business owner requests it?
So there's never been enforcement of mask mandates. We are not looking to get into big debates with individuals around masks. We hope that people will continue the culture that we've already started here in Boston around public safety, certainly use their best judgment, continue to do things that make them safe. Obviously, Memorial Day weekend being the start of summer, people want to get out and gather, they want to enjoy. We have to continue to be safe. We have to make sure that our businesses are supported and that in terms of licensing and enforcement around bars and restaurants expanding their capacity, we have to certainly ensure that there will not be any incidents of violence there and that we're doing everything we can. And I want to thank Chief Long for his leadership, and combat this narrative that there's a void here. Chief Long has done exceptional work, and I'm grateful for his partnership and his leadership of the Boston Police Department and ensuring that we are keeping our residents safe and our businesses are able to open up safely this weekend and beyond. I don't know if you wanted to add to that, Chief Long.
It's obviously, as the mayor alluded to, in Memorial Day weekend, we'd expect a lot of people to be out and about. So we just want to ensure that everyone's safety. And again, as I alluded to also, Some of these extra patrols will be used for those areas that we are seeing, any increase in violence, as well as, downtown, as I spoke about earlier. We do expect an increase of people downtown. And actually throughout the city, we have a high concentration of restaurants and bars. We expect that. We just want to make sure that everyone, is safe when they're visiting and safe coming and going. That's why we have the extra patrols out there.
Is there a correlation with the 40 to 50 people we're talking about and summer safety and trying to get them off the streets before the summer really kicks in? And also, what can we have done proactively in regards to fireworks? It was such a major issue last year in a lot of different neighborhoods. What can we do now ahead of July 4th in terms of these fireworks?
Well, I will start and encourage the team to come up. One of the things that we are doing certainly is putting out the word, as we've done today. We are convening a group. I'm working with my Chief of Civic Engagement, Aisha Miller, around engaging residents in this work, elected officials in this work, faith leaders, business leaders. We know that this was a huge issue last year. It certainly is compounding the trauma that we already feel in the city of Boston in terms of COVID, in terms of how our veterans respond, and others who have experienced gun violence. And so we have to do all that we can to keep these illegal explosives out of our neighborhoods, number one. And number two, make sure that we're all being good neighbors. I don't know if either of you would like to add to that, and I haven't touched anything.
So not about fireworks, but more about the 40 to 50. We would never wait for a summer rollout. We are, with our law enforcement partners, as things happen, we are moving quickly. Some of those individuals, many, are in a particular area of Boston with respect to the Mass Ave and Melnia Cass area, which we have seen an uptick in behavior there, but others are outside of that. And last I will say is our Crime Strategies Bureau covers human trafficking, gang, narcotics, and juvenile matters. And we are working closely because that is a terrible cocktail where many of the individuals are engaging in a lot of that same behavior.
How big of an issue, several of you, especially Mayor Janey, mentioned focusing on gang hotspots. How big of a focus is that going into the summer, and how big of an issue is that going into the summer?
Chief Long, take that.
I just want to say, our focus on gangs, that's throughout the year, just not summer. Obviously, during the summer months, there's more opportunities, people are out and about. So, there is a heightened concern about that. Rivals, there's more opportunities to run into each other. But, like I said, this is a strategy. Like I said, there's intelligence-driven data that we utilize all year long. As I said, we haven't even moved in the summer, and you've seen some of the numbers that I've mentioned in terms of firearm recoveries. Again, to me, that shows that process is working. And, we will continue focusing on those individuals and gang members that are driving violence. And like I said, it's a year-long process. We'll continue that work.
Is gang violence and street violence sort of the main driver of street violence in Boston?
Yeah, the majority of the street violence you'll see is either gang-related violence or, it's drug-related violence, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's gang-related, though.
And Sean, so when we think about the homicides that have happened this year, for example, and we've had 16, and there are through the exceptional work of the Boston Police Department and the detectives in the homicide unit, 8 arrests have already made of those 16. Some of them have been indicted and arraigned in Superior Court, which is the process that has to be followed. But for example, we had the double homicide on May 2nd of Yahaira Dialto and Fatima Yassin. That was a domestic violence situation, right? When we have other tragedies like Delois Brown, although she might not have been the target, they're still looking to see whether that was some other altercation that might have happened, but she was the, sad victim as a result of that. But all of that intelligence is being gathered by the Boston Police Department, our Crime Strategies Bureau, the BRIC, the Fusion Center, and the Mass State Police. But some of it definitely is, and others are just, like the geography of what's happening in certain areas where we've seen, for example, in the Mass Ave and Melnia Cass, many of those homicides are the weapon is a knife as opposed to a gun. So we're looking at all those trends.
Mayor Janey and District Attorney, please let me know what your reaction is to the reports this week about reevaluation counseling in the Boston Public Schools, and what would you like to see done about it?
Let me start by thanking Superintendent Cassellius for her quick response in terms of launching the investigation and putting a stop to counseling that is not licensed. I think that was the right approach. We obviously want to make sure that our young people feel safe, that they are being supported, and that any counseling happens by licensed professionals.
Last question, folks.
Yeah, and to answer, yeah, just simply that we've read the article, and many of the incidents happened in Newton, which is not part of Suffolk County, but we have already, my senior leadership team has been in discussion about what's happening, and we might have more to say later. Thank you.
Would DA Ryan's office be contacted by yours?
You can certainly reach out to DA Ryan if you'd like. It's a free country, but I'm saying that we are going to look into anything that potentially happened in Suffolk County. I don't have jurisdiction. There was a mention in the article, ma'am, about Newton. That's not part of Suffolk County. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.